Well, interwebs, today we're going to talk about being in the world and not of the world. And I'll start off a little bit of breakdown of that statement. Be in the world, not of the world, and where it comes from. At the time that it's really referenced is in, like I said, the book of John, when Jesus is praying for not only his disciples, but all of those that would come to believe in him. This is Panda paraphrasing. It says that basically they're in the world as he was in the world, and that he doesn't pray that God would take them out of the world, but that he would just spare them from the evil one, and that they are not of the world as he is not of the world, that we are not of the world as he is not of the world. So you can kind of see where they get it from. Be in the world, not of the world. Pretty straightforward. So that's kind of the breakdown of it and where it comes from. Like I said, there's no specific verse that says, you know, be in the world, not of the world. So that's kind of where that comes from. And I just want to talk about this concept of be in the world, not of the world for a minute. It means that we are completely and totally in the world. When you look at Jesus as our model of, you know, how we should live, Jesus was completely in the world. He ate with tax collectors and sinners, the Bible says, you know. And he was also with his disciples and with the religious community in the temples. He was a part of it all. He maintained his relationships with, you know, what we would now call Christians, but they were just his disciples at the time. He maintains his relationship with them, and he makes sure to take time to pray and everything, but he also is spending time, you know, with people in the world, like people that aren't part of his group, rather, his like-minded individual, the people that he's pouring into to teach and train and stuff. He hangs out with people that, as he said, who needs a physician, somebody who's well or somebody who's sick. So when we look at Jesus as the model, we clearly see, like, you know, he was in the world as we are in the world, and he never shut himself away, but rather put himself in and out and around, much like, you know, we are in the world today, and, you know, we talk about being a light unto the world, and that the world is in darkness and a slave to sin and everything. That's what it means. It's like Jesus was out there and he was a light unto the darkness. I mean, Jesus was the light. He was out there being a light where there was darkness, where people were a slave to sin and a slave to, you know, the greed and self-seeking and everything of the world system, the fleshly nature that we are born into. So Jesus was a light of showing kindness and compassion and love and healing and doing things beyond his own good, essentially. Much like Jesus was the model, today we are in the world and tasked to be not of the world, meaning we are in the world and we should be in the world, and we should be a light unto those that are around. So I'm going to pick on mega churches for a second. I typically don't call out any specific church, but I am going to pick on mega churches for a moment. And I'm purely going to do that because, as I've said before, they kind of set the standards that the other churches try to live up to. They try to emulate what they see as being successful, as I've talked about in previous videos, like that kind of thing. The church wants to keep people in, and they set up all these different groups and stuff so that people will feel like they've got a relational connection and be involved in ministry and feel like they have a connection to the church, and they'll have friends in the church, and their activities will be done either in the church or around the church. Like in a lot of mega churches, it's one of those things where there's something going on every night. Like people are involved in a couple of different ministries. They've got church services, they've got small groups, they've got different things for age groups that they're in. There's like church softball leagues and basketball leagues and various different things that are going on that people are a part of. They have their friends and their connections and their everything from church. So what ends up happening and what's seen and again what's promoted by these churches to get people in and get them to stay and everything is something that's very much keeping people as being part of the church and in the church and solely functioning within the church, and putting where all activities and everything with life outside of, you know, maybe your job, anything that's like with other people is going to be in the realm of the church. It's going to be separated and segregate at all. Now, there's a couple of reasons why churches do this. One is, all the studies and stuff say if you're connected to the church, you're more likely to stay in the church. Another reason that I believe is that the church, people in the church, the Christian people in the church, and the church itself, in some instances, have become afraid to be honest about how they feel about God and Jesus and their relationships with God and everything. It's very easy in a church to be a Christian. It's something that's very easy to do because it's expected. Now, there's all the lies of morality and the perceived holiness and all the different things I've talked about. But in terms of going, yes, I believe in Jesus, it's a very, very safe place to do it. I feel like to a large degree, the church, in order to protect, people from the outside influences and to protect them so that you can be Christians, they've encouraged this idea of just, camaraderie with one another, and that's it. I'm not going to call out and just be like churches are bad and everything, because I can understand it. I do get it, because as somebody who used to go to church and then I stopped going to church and then I started going to church again, I know how easy it is to walk away from even my own values. And that's why I go to church now. It's not that I agree with everything that happens in church. Clearly I don't. But it's because having stepped away from it, I know where I went down the path alone. And being in church in a community of worshiping together God, it kind of helps center me back in my own compass of where I believe, Jesus and God and everything. It helps to uplift me in that, knowing that there's other people that understand the whole personal conviction thing and coming from a spiritual center, if you will, of belief in Jesus. Even just meeting in a coffee shop with fellow Christians and talking about the Bible and good things God's done in your life. It's good to be able to fellowship with other Christians. So I'm not saying that's bad. It's definitely not. It's in the Bible, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together and stuff. But what becomes an issue and why it becomes dangerous is that whenever church world is all you have, all activities are done in the church world, all volunteer work is done in the realm of the church, all friendships are from the church, all interactions, apart from basic interactions with customer service personnel, your free time, your non-work related hours are spent engaging in things that are isolated to the church and the Christian community. At that point, we're separated. We're not of the world. There's even bumper stickers that say "not of this world." There's a whole brand of clothing that's dedicated to "not of this world." But we as Christians have a tendency to leave the "in the world" out. We must still be in the world. We are in the world. We don't have a choice in that. We were born into the world, you're in the world. That's how it goes. And a lot of times what happens is churches have put up their walls. And I've talked about this before, you don't believe the same as us, we're going to ostracize you, you have to adhere to our belief system of what means holiness, all the things I've talked about before. We get to this point where we've built the walls and everything, and then we're okay, this is where we are safe to believe what we believe. Safety. We're safe to be Christians here. We're safe to talk about what we want to talk about here. From that point, then we start doing all these things that are created so that, a lot of churches have coffee shops in them that are open week long where people can schedule meetings. Even their meeting time is in a church, in a safe place. So we set up these places that are safe, and then we start spending all of our time in them because we're safe to be Christians and everything. And then we're no longer in the world. Just to kind of put things in perspective of what I'm talking about with things in the church and how quickly it can get out of hand. So I'm not going to go into specifics of what I was involved in, but there were some things I was involved in where I would be at the church at 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning on Sunday. I had something that I did in regards to the church on Monday night. I had something that I had to prepare for on Tuesday night. I went to a Bible study on Wednesday night. I had something that I had to do for the church on Thursday night, Sunday mornings, and then 4 nights a week were dedicated to the church. And I don't go to a mega church. So that kind of puts it in perspective of what I'm trying to say. Just if you take a look at it and you go, okay, so you work full time, so whatever o'clock in the morning to whatever o'clock at night, have dinner and you go do church related thing, then you go home and go to sleep and go back to work. There's no time in the world apart from when you're at work. Whenever, let's face it, if you're on the job, a lot of companies don't want religious discussion on the job, period, from any religion. If people you're with are going out, after work for beers or something, and you feel conviction about drinking, and you're like, no, I don't because of whatever, that's not a religious discussion, but that's usually where it stops. So there's not a whole lot of interaction with the world as a Christian being a light apart from your working hours if you're only in the church. And that's why it becomes very dangerous to kind of maintain the life of just being in the church. Again, is Christian fellowship bad? No, it's very good. It's great when you can gather together, share and talk with beliefs and stuff. But as I was saying, the danger is in when that is all there is. You cease to have the opportunity to be in the world. To use biblical analogy, the world system of greed and self-seeking, those kind of things, that is the world system. Darkness is how the Bible refers to it. You know, malice, hate, anger, all of the things that it says, like put off the flesh and put on, you know, the fruits of the Spirit, which are, you know, love, joy, peace, patience. So if you have love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, understanding, temperance, all those things, and you're in a church with a bunch of other people that are supposed to have love, peace, patience, kindness, temperance, understanding, all those other things, and you segregate yourself from the world that is in anger, malice, contempt, lustful desires, greed, slander, then you're not being the light in the world. You're being the light, again to go biblical, a light under a basket. We've taken the light of Jesus within us, the kindness, the love, the peace, the patience, assuming that we're all living by that, which we should strive to and pray for the ability to, we're taking that and we're putting it under a basket. Now, we could just call that basket multi-million-dollar buildings, but it's the same thing. Am I saying go out to like bars and try to be an evangelist? Am I saying go out to crack houses and just hang out with them and stuff? I don't know, maybe. Depends on your temptation level, I guess. All I'm saying is that we can't be so isolated. In a large case, the church as a whole, as I was talking about last week, you know, isn't doing the work of God, which is going out and showing the love of Jesus and the kindness and compassion and caring of God by living in a system that is different from the world. It's a system that is opposite of the world system. And the individual nature of the same thing, if you're in the church all the time and you're never out with, like, you know, friends that aren't Christians, you're never engaging with your neighbors, you're never like out at a block party, or if you live in an apartment, you're never at the like functions that they do on sometimes in the clubhouse and stuff. You're not engaging with other people who don't believe the same as you. You don't have a chance to show them anything apart from the world system, because you saved that for when you're in the church building, and the church encourages it, unfortunately, because they view the church as a safe space. The church is a place where they're free to believe how they want and say what they want and think what they want, and the rest of the world isn't. And the whole thing that started, you know, Jesus' prayer for his disciples was basically when he said, your word which you gave me is in them also, and the world hates them for the word that's in me. And it was a prayer of protection, that they would be kept from the evil one. Now, what that says to me is that the church was never meant to create a safe space for people to be Christians in, but rather we are supposed to be Christians and do, you know, speak the truth and the word of God out in the world, not in our churches. And what we do is we set up a church and we go, this is what we believe. You can agree with us or not. Come into our club, build it, and they will come, you know, kind of mentality. Like, we'll build it, and then people will come inside because they want to hear about God. Rather than living a true life of love and acceptance and peace and patience and showing the love of Christ to people, and not holding back on the truth of there needs to be repentance of sins. But it's up to God and the Holy Spirit to reveal what those sins are, not us. If we hide our faith and our beliefs and our trust in God and our faith in Jesus within the four walls of the church that we've created, and we only associate with people in the church that we've created, and we only engage in activities that are basically sponsored and sanctioned by the church that we've created, the church building that we've created, the entity, then what good are we to the world if we as the church and the church body as a whole are not actively engaging and going out into the world and trying to meet needs and show the love of Jesus? We're not doing the work of God. We can't be isolationists in our practices so that we hold back the love of God in people's lives. We don't extend, you know, kindness, compassion, and things to people, that we only stick with our Christian friends and our Christian building, things of that nature that stop us from spreading and showing the love of God to people because we never associate with them. So I encourage you to wave to a neighbor. Say hello to somebody you haven't said hello to. Show kindness to somebody in need. Hold a door for somebody. Help an old lady carry her groceries to her car. Help an old man carry his groceries to his car. Do something to engage with the community around you and show love and life and happiness. True joy from Jesus. Show something that's not self-seeking, that's outside of the confines, the belief system of this world. So anyways, I'm going to leave this at that. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'm just going to leave this at that. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, bye.